Hey, it's Fight here with it's a small competition. I'm looking for your input, and if it is great input, there's a great prize. Well, I think it's a great prize. It's basically my upcoming course on how to do non-salesy sales or non-salesy marketing. This whole thing is based on really the fundamental idea of Jiu-Jitsu. So when you look at the characteristics of Jiu-Jitsu, or at least the Jiu part, means gentle, soft, supple, flexible, pliable, or yielding. It's basically an art for manipulating your opponent's force against themselves rather than confronting it. So maybe the counterpart to this would be karate. Karate, or I used to do taekwondo, which is all basically punching as hard as you can and overpowering your opponent. And really, that is the one big thing where a lot of people are struggling with marketing. It kind of feels aggressive, it feels pushy, and you're trying to battle your opponent. You're kind of trying to wear them down by exploiting hardwired responses, by hitting them as hard as you can with bonuses. And a lot of entrepreneurs don't actually like this. So wouldn't it be nice if we had a Jiu-Jitsu oriented way of marketing? And that's really what this thing is about. And what I'm showing you here is it's an idea I've developed over many, many years, but this idea of wrapping it up in one word, namely whom, and this is it. This is the key thing. That's only come to me recently, and really what the competition is about is, hey, look, wouldn't it be nice if we could distill the process, or the process is already distilled into 4 components. I'll show you those in a second. But if we could find an acronym, or no, you find words that now turn this acronym whom into something useful, namely showing you what the 4 stages are, then that would be fantastic. It would be great for the product, and the prize would be access to the product. So the product is basically a Jiu-Jitsu style marketing approach where you create clients in a very respectful way, in a way that is subtle, soft, supple, instead of being hard-hitting, punching them in the head or other bits in the hope of wearing them down. Alrighty, that as an aside, here's the idea of whom. Basically, most marketing, as it's been taught out there, asks you to ask yourself, how can I wear them down? What technique can I use right now to overcome them? So as long as you're focused on that how, or the what technique, your brain is constantly looking for, well, what other technique can I use? And by the way, it's perfectly normal. We all go through this. I mean, when I got started with marketing, I read Cialdini, and immediately I asked myself, like, all right, how can I use reciprocity? What can I give away so people trust me? The power of free, the power of all these different concepts, urgency and scarcity. Your brain automatically goes into modes like, how can I use this? And of course, the big problem that comes from this is that a lot of those techniques, the how techniques, they create a buying resistance. So the idea is, rather than ask, how can I persuade people? What techniques can I use to hit them over the head, to wear them down? Change that to, whom do I serve? Every single question, or every single time you think about marketing, it should be, whom do I serve? Because underlying that is then a Jiu-Jitsu approach. What problems are they facing? How can I help them, as opposed to how can I wear them down? And I want to show you in a second here on the rest of this screen how that actually translates into more sales. Because, it's one thing doing something nice because it feels non-salesy, it's good for karma and feng shui, and the universe is paying back, etc. But at the end of the day, we all need to pay our mortgages. And at least in my experience, and in the experience of my clients, this approach of not hitting people but being respectful, engaging in a genuine conversation is actually more profitable. Not necessarily because you make instantly more sales, but because you're building true know, like, and trust factor, and that in almost all cases leads to repeat business, to better outcomes because you're pre-qualifying in a much better way. You're not persuading people, but you're showing people what is possible. You're helping them overcome their own obstacles, but also you're being respectful of where they are at. And if the time isn't right now, that's fine because you're building a good relationship, so they will come to you when the time is right for them. So you're creating business down the road. You're creating success stories. You're creating referrals. You're creating repeat business. And that's why it is a better way of doing it. So, what I want to show you, and this is quite interesting, you're basically seeing the 4 steps I wanted then was whom, right? W-H-O-M. And the first one is, what should I be learning? So this is basically stage number 1. And it all starts with the hard part about figuring out, and that's basically a quote. It's not me. It's a quote by Paul Graham. Let me move him down so you can see him. Here's Paul Graham. He is an entrepreneur and investor and, all-round great guy, especially since he's a computer scientist. I mean, how much cooler does it get? So Paul Graham basically said, the hard part about figuring out what customers want is figuring out what you need to figure out. And if that sounds a bit circular, I'll illustrate with a quick story, the story of the luggage store. We used to run workshops for sales reps of newspaper advertising space, the guys and gals who go out and sell basically ads to local businesses. And we'd go along and we'd be introduced as the newbie, but really we were coaches and observing what's going on. So this one time, we went into a luxury luggage store, and the conversation went like Groundhog Day. It was never ending. Well, fortunately, it ended after about half an hour. But every single exchange was, sales rep would say, "Hey, I've got this great ad here, this great offer. It's the very best I can give you." And he was throwing everything in. There was the free 3 for the price of 2 color for the price of black and white, free advertorial, anything he could throw in for free. And every time, the luggage store owner would reply with, "Yeah, but how does it convey the quality of my store?" So basically, in the mind of the luggage store owner, there was only one thing, namely quality. He didn't care about the price. However, the sales rep interpreted every single thing the owner said as an objection because he didn't bite. He didn't say, that is an awesome offer, despite it being an awesome offer. And that really is this bit here. If you cannot hear in a conversation that the opponent, karate, paf, the opposing party is saying, this is what's important to me. If you can't hear it because you haven't been trained to listen for it, you will never be able to put a sales message in front of them that resonates with them. So that really is stage number 1. You need to figure out what you should be learning. And what are the things you can listen for? And now you can start to see how that is important, or why it's such a powerful concept to start with whom. Whom am I serving? Whom am I listening to? What's really going on their minds, as opposed to how can I persuade them? Because the karate way, the hardcore hitting way, is they are not responding. I need to up the ante. I need to up the urgency, the scarcity, the bonuses. That's exactly what the sales rep did. He said, all right, you're objecting, or interpreted it as an objection, and said, well, you're not responding to, you're not biting on my offer yet. Let me give you more stuff. And it never happened. It was Groundhog Day. Like every single 2 sentences, it'd be like, okay, I'll give you more stuff. And the luggage store owner, no, I'm not interested. And it seemed like an objection. It wasn't an objection. It was a simple case of the sales rep did not know what they should be learning, what they should be listening for. So this first stage really is all about that. Now, you see, I already got a W, which would be cool. So my acronym is growing, but unfortunately it doesn't pan out over time. I've got initials WHOM, but it doesn't really, I'm not happy yet. So I'll show you why that is. So really, in the what section, I have all kinds of things you need to figure out, or you should be learning, where people are in the buying decision cycle, right? For example, if they are solution aware, if they're you aware, if they know what it is you bring to the table and why it's important to them, and really that they should be doing or want to do business with you, yes, you can talk about your USP. But if you talk about your USP at a stage where they don't even understand their problem, never mind a solution, what's the point talking about a USP? right? It makes no sense. They don't understand the value you bring to the table. So if you don't know where they are in the buying decision cycle, all your USP, all your closing techniques, all your scarcity and urgency and bonuses, none of that matters. So next one is whom you can help. And I'm already at 10 minutes, so I'm not going to give you all the examples here. From the things you learn in here, in the various bits, you can then figure out what the conversation is that's going on in their heads. I'll give you the very, very short version of the boiler man, right? Did some work for a plumber. He tried all kinds of urgency and scarcity and blah, 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 blah. None of it worked. And when we changed things around to the conversation that was going on in people's heads, and the big conversation that was going on was people being worried about carbon monoxide poisoning, then everything changed for him. So he couldn't sell his gas boilers with urgency and scarcity, but when he started talking to that pain point of, hey, are you worried about carbon monoxide poisoning? That made all the difference, right? So again, from the stuff I talk about here, you kind of need to figure out what conversation is going on in people's heads and then tap into it. Then there are all kinds of other things. How they make their buying decisions. Why right now is the time. What's the opportunity shift? This is an observation you will see over and over again. Especially what you'll see is that a lot of beginners, when it comes to selling your own stuff for the first time, they try to improve on what's already out there. And let me tell you, from personal experience and all my clients, selling something that is a bit of an improvement is a hard job. Because people have made up their minds. They've built know, like, and trust with someone else. And now you're trying to get them away from that for a little bit of an improvement. Improvement is hard. Opportunity shift is easy. Underlying all of that, what's the big idea? To communicate that opportunity shift. There are all kinds of other elements. The polarizing elements, the aha moment, etc. So anyway, all of that is basically the what. What should I be learning? Now, I do like the W, I don't like the what, because when I come to the O and the M, there are no words like what, how, why, etc. So it kind of sounds stupid that stage 1 is what, stage number 2 is how. So I'll wrap this up in the next couple of minutes, right? Stage number 1, and that's really the important one, what should I be learning? And then I'll show you in the course what you should be learning, what you should be listening out for, so you can tap into that conversation and have a genuine conversation. Once you've figured that out, or once you've learned what to listen for, then you need to figure out, how do I get that information specifically for my target market, right? Again, I'll spare you the story. I've got some stuff. I did some consulting with a bar or restaurant. It was hilarious. But okay, here's the super short version. They basically did all their advertising, all their marketing on flyers, and the only place you could find the flyers was on their actual bar in their establishment. So unless you walked in, you'd never see the flyers. It's like, oh man, okay. So step number 2, how do I get that information? How do I find out what I need to listen for? Here you get the categories. You learn what to listen for, and now you need to figure out where you're going to get that for your specific market. And there are really 2 ways of doing it. You first of all, talk to people, and I'll show you the process of what questions to actually ask, and how to approach people, so you can have a genuine conversation, so they actually talk to you. And then by split testing ads, and that's really because ultimately it's all very well connecting people or with people one-to-one, and trying to get information and not be salesy. But if you really want to grow a business, you need to do some advertising. And again, how do you do that to find that information, what is true and what's not true for your market? And then step number 3 is observation and optimization. So it's a validation of the ideas you develop in this second stage here. And now you see my problem. Stage number 1, what? Yes, we've got whom almost ready. Stage number 2, how? WH, yes, we are on track. And then what, how, and observation, man, that sounds rubbish. Right? So here's the competition then. Whoever comes up with the best stage names, whatever you want to call it, the 4 individual components that make up the cool acronym is whom, unless you come up with a better way of doing this, But really at the heart of this whole thing is that we don't focus on the how the technique, the karate-based hitting people, but instead the Jiu-Jitsu style whom. We start with whom in mind. And that's why I would love to have the acronym whom. Stage number 1 is W, stage number 2 is H, number 3 is O, and number 4 is M. Yeah, I haven't fleshed this out yet. It's basically, I know how to do it. I've done this before. I've even created courses around it. I just haven't put this in this document. Stage number 4 is monetization, or with a minimum viable product. It could be minimum viable product, for monetization, whatever. It's again using the same process, but now actually turning it into money. Alrighty, so there you go. That's in a 15-minute nutshell what this whole thing is about, what this competition is about. If you're interested in getting access to this course, which I'm creating at the moment, well, all you need to do is get your creative juices flowing and come up with a cool acronym. Or not a cool acronym, the acronym is there. It's whom. But now you need to find cool names. Like, what's the stage here? It's not what, because what, how, observation, monetization, it's poor, right? It really isn't very, very good. So there you go. 4 words that encapsulate what this thing is about, or each stage is about, and the winner gets a free copy. And if there are up to 3 awesome winners, I may just do 3 copies. Actually, what I think I'll be doing is I'll do a little contest with a few more cool things, but for now, this is it. Alrighty, let me know what you think. Cheers, bye.